I want to talk about some of this new updates that key collectors got. You have this Marvel DC crossover.
That's right. We got some updates to the best comic book app that exists on the market. Use that code TOM101 on Key Collector Comics to unlock one free week subscription of this dope comic app that's going to become such a great asset, a tool in your toolbox of collecting, and it's available on both Android and iPhones. We're chatting about a category of DC Marvel crossover keys for good reason. I couldn't even get through the first couple without going on like hours of research because there's so much history in these key moments.
These are the fun moments we get in comics. You wonder, how does a Marvel universe end up in a DC universe, and then vice versa? But when it happens, it's something to be celebrated because it's fun. I mean, we got to remember, these creators, they hung out with each other from time to time. They knew each other. And it wasn't so bad to mention it, like the laws and the attorneys weren't getting involved. Like nowadays, if you see it, you just, you're going to get some kind of class action lawsuit or something ridiculous. So back then, it just wasn't as difficult to do that. But everyone respected each other. I don't think anything inflammatory or anything crazy we saw. But man, I don't know. Every time I went through this, like you mentioned, you did kind of have to segue and get the whole story behind it.
With that said, we have about 10, maybe a little bit more, comic books in a list for you. No particular order, but some of our favorite key moments when these crossovers took place. Let's actually start them out with the Inferior 5, a straight-up parody team to some heroes of Marvel Comics.
Yeah, these are DC characters. In the Showcase title, they first appeared. But in Showcase 63, we had this special story arc.
That's right. In Showcase 63, we have a Brute Brainerd. Kind of sounds like Bruce Banner, but this right here is a caricature of the Hulk, probably the least attractive looking version of the character. And it's 5 beta kappa radiation, man.
This is what happens when you get slapped with Greek system radiation, guys.
This is hilarious. But you know what? We also have to showcase just a straight up, I would call it an insult to the Marvel heroes, an Inferior 5 issue number 10. I mean, look how they just did our man wrong. Submariner getting that ass shot. It's no good.
We got a tangled up Mr. Fantastic looking just completely in shambles. I mean, look at Spider-Man, dude.
Just total fail, dude. It's like he just fell over and like ate it while rollerblading.
And check out Superman. Look how majestic. Look how powerful he looks above everybody else, just standing in a classic pose over these Marvel characters who look like they're tripped over their own feet. But Marvel will be utilizing Clark Kent and Lois Lane in their pages as well.
That's right. Let's take a look at how Chris Claremont started this trend.
The first time we're going to see these two in a Marvel comic book is in X-Men 98 in a really, really brief corner panel. Okay, they're not named, all right, but that is Clark Kent.
Yeah, it's pretty clear that that's who we're looking at.
And by the way, this is a great issue if you haven't read it yet, but I really recommend it. It was a super fun read, and same with 99.
But this would actually start like multiple appearances of this character. This is a Clark Kent who exists in the Marvel Universe. He is a reporter. He is dating someone named Lois Lane, and it's about to be more clear in like other comic books in Marvel canon.
I mean, we're going to see him used in over a dozen comic books in Marvel's pages. So Secret Wars 2, number 7. We'll see him again on the television as a news reporter because Clark Kent is broadcasted into hell, apparently.
That's right. But that's not the only page that we see our favorite reporter.
No, if you go to Thor 341, okay, Sergeant Fury gives Thor glasses, and as he walks out, he bumps into a character, all right? And we see a Lois-like figure say something to the effect of, Clark, you need to get up, or Clark something, okay? And that's clearly Clark Kent in his glasses.
That's right. And, oh, wait, what's this? Marvel Team Up 79?
We see Clark Kent character. Okay, he's not mentioned, but it's Clark, all right, at the Daily Bugle, of all places. Peter Parker's place.
Yeah, what's he doing in our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man's house right now?
Some kind of celebration. Marvel Team Up number 79. It's just another cameo. They're just sticking him in.
We got to take a look at Excalibur issue number 8 coming out in the late 80s. We have straight up a scene where we see Captain Britain just flying into the sky with his gorgeous blonde hair. And then the citizens from the street saying, look, there's a bird, there's a plane, there's a, what is that? And then you see Lois Lane complaining about how you just can't go anywhere on the streets without running into a superhero.
This is a great scene, okay? Because we see Clark go, isn't New York fantastic, Lois? And then Lois comments back to Clark.
So we actually get confirmation. We're dealing with Lois and Clark in these panels.
Yeah, I'm going to quote her on this, okay? And the way it's laid out, this final panel looks like she's literally looking at the reader and making a statement about Superman. Because she goes, if you've seen one hyperthyroid, egomaniacal, exhibitionist in skin tights, you've seen them all.
That's right. She's looking at the reader. This is in a Marvel comic book, throwing shots at DC with DC characters. I love comic books.
Let's talk about one more dope comic here on this list. We got Avengers Comics 83.
That's right. This is actually the first time that we see Valkyrie in comics. That's the first thing. But we also see the debut of this parade. This whole story includes a parade that happens annually in Vermont. And this is one of those moments where I have to just let the comic fam know I'm going to have to come back to this table after more research, because this one comic led me to so much more history. This is a parade called the Rutland Halloween Parade that back in the 70s would incorporate superhero costumes as like the main choice of costume for the parade members, marching through the streets, being led by characters like Batman and Spider-Man. And naturally, when wrote into the pages of a Marvel comic by Roy Thomas, well, it was post him attending this parade. So in this page, we see individuals who are dressed up as other characters.
And check out the representation of this parade in these pages. I mean, this is a full page right here. This is great. You got Doom marching down here. I mean, we even got a representation here of the DC characters. We have Deadman and we have Batman. And, you know, what's interesting here is that we're going to have Neil Adams drawing covers for Avengers shortly after, like maybe 10 issues coming from this book. And those are two Neil Adams, like literally prevalent characters of the late 70s.
Yeah, clearly Roy Thomas was influenced by his experience at this parade. And what I would find out is that this parade would then go on to be written into Marvel canon and DC comic books multiple times over the decades by other artists and writers, including Neil Adams and Dennis O'Neil. But that's going to be a conversation for another day. Hit the subscribe button. Let's chat about some Deadpool DC crossover.
You know, if there's a character who makes sense to cross over into other publishers and other walls of just conversation, it's Deadpool. Okay, so we're here at Superman and Batman Annual Number 1. Okay, we have them both on the cover, and we have Deathstroke. All right, Deathstroke and Deadpool have a similar look.
Yeah, some people actually think that, you know, maybe Deadpool's kind of based off of Deathstroke.
So that kind of plays on this notion in this book. And it's really a fun read because Deadpool is his normal self, but you can tell that he's annoying the hell out of Deathstroke in this entire issue.
It's the only way you would know it's Deadpool, because they didn't actually name him Deadpool in this comic. But how are we told that it's Deadpool?
Well, there is a scene where Deadpool is taking his ripped off arm and beating another character with his own arm, and then slaps it back in place and has it reattach.
That's right. He's being awful. He's just making jokes. He's being, vulgar. He's being Deadpool. And what's also kind of funny is he's kind of colored like Deathstroke too, but it's also got the design of Deadpool.
Yeah, I mean, he can't die. He's literally being stabbed over and over to the point, and he's annoying Deathstroke so much that Deathstroke is literally commenting how I should just end my own life so I don't have to deal with this anymore.
That's a way to get rid of Deadpool, right? You just end it yourself. Oh, that's terrible. Okay, so now let me take you back over to another really interesting crossover event that was unintentional. And this is kind of some lore, but it's out there. And this did happen. We have Aquaman 56 and another comic book we got to get on the screen too that are connected. Submariner 72. Very strange that these two comic books were connected, especially coming out years apart from one another. But let's get into it. We have a comic book that is a hidden crossover event because of a villain that was first appearing in this Aquaman issue. It's this algae-like creature that starts taking over the world that gets resolved by the end of this Aquaman book by getting thrown into space and having it explode. All right? It goes up into flames. But what's really interesting is that just a couple years later, we have a writer, an editor staff. His name is Steve Skeetus. And unbeknownst to him, he utilized this very villain in the Submariner issue 72 narrative that he was working on, thinking presumably that it was fair game. These writers and artists, they hopped ship. They would go from one place to the other. So this writer thought he was utilizing a character that was okay to use. And he brought it into Marvel canon, making it the first unintentional Marvel crossover of any character.
That's weird. I don't know why he didn't just Google it. I mean, that makes no sense to me.
Well, if he would have known that Submariner dealing with this fungus creature that came from space actually came from a different Atlantean.
I find it a little hilarious that of all creatures to be stolen by another universe, it's got to be an algae creature. I mean, yes, what do we need to do to strike fear into heroes? Another algae creature.
It's how you know for sure that he just made a mistake, because what are the odds that it would be another fungal space alien that would cause this creature? But I digress, because we got to talk about Quasar and the Flash.
Yeah, talk about silly. Okay, so this one's going to be a little bit of a stretch, but it's there.
Oh, for sure it's there. We're dealing with speedsters in the Marvel universe.
Dealing with speedsters, exactly. And anytime you think of speedster, it's the Flash from the DC universe. But we're going to get a race that happens in Quasar number 17. But a character appears in the pages named Buried Alien, or Alien, however you want to pronounce it. And how close is that to Barry Allen? This character has amnesia, all right? And he doesn't know his own name, and he says it kind of sounds like that.
Yeah, it specifically mentions that he forgot and he came through another dimension because of how fast he can run. But it sounds like Buried Alien. I can't remember my name.
Yeah, and he's got crimson shorts on. He's kind of got almost like this lightning bolt looking belt, but really it's just a torn piece of material, which isn't an accident the way it's drawn. All right, he's got his yellow boots on. I mean, it's got to be meant to be Flash.
Absolutely. And what's also intriguing was this other comic book that you found that, honestly, I'm hoping someone in the comments section can fill in the gaps with, because I was surprised to see the CGC label. I was surprised to see that this is considered a random factoid respected in the key collector market. We have Spider-Man Marvel team up featuring Barry Allen and Iris West?
Yeah, so it's Marvel Team Up number 121. Okay, it's got an issue of a speedster in it.
Spider-Man and Human Torch on the cover. Marvel Comics. What's going on the cover?
Yeah, so the cover also has first cameo appearance of the Flash. Okay, not even the Flash, of Barry Allen and Iris West.
And this is what it says on the CGC label. And it's known in the community. I looked on the internet, and you're going to see eBay searches that say it. You're also going to see random sites that mention, yeah, this is a fun little factoid. It's a key appearance for Flash collectors. But I could find nothing else about it. Why are they on the cover? I couldn't find them even in the comic book.
Well, it's a speedster issue, so it makes sense to just poke a little bit that looks like Barry Allen's The Flash. All right, the Silver Age version of it for the most part. And I'm assuming maybe there's some hidden story we don't know. Maybe the artist mentioned that somewhere. Maybe the original artwork's out there, but it's not in the interior pages. You don't see them inside, so there's no validation of these are those characters. But it is recognized by CGC on their label that that's their appearance.
Comic fam, these types of comics have amazing history. And when you go through them, you end up finding other comic books, other random pieces of information that makes you want to buy and hunt and add comics to your collection. I'm going to be looking through this category. You should too. Remember to use that code TOM101. You help support the show, but you're going to learn a lot about comic collecting.